Have you ever wondered how a man, fleeing with nothing but the clothes on his back, became one of the most prosperous figures in the Bible? The secret wasn't just hard work or ordinary faith. Jacob used a mental technique that science today calls visualization, a principle that has been hidden within the scriptures for thousands of years. Once you understand his method, you'll realize that this same power is available to you right now. Imagine facing the most uncertain moment of your life, with no resources, no guarantees, a past marred by mistakes, and a completely blank future. This was Jacob's reality as he walked alone, carrying only a distant promise and a heart filled with doubt. But something radically shifted his path, and that change didn't start on the outside. It began within him. Have you ever considered how many times your life could have taken a different turn if only you knew how to align your inner vision with the reality you wish to manifest? What if I told you there's a principle concealed in this ancient story that can unlock doors you thought were sealed forever? Many believe prosperity is solely the result of physical effort or repetitive prayers, but there's a much deeper spiritual mystery behind every true achievement. Jacob didn't just ask. He saw before he received. He mentally constructed what he would later harvest physically. This is the key that so few grasp. It's not just about believing, but about seeing with such clarity that your mind becomes the fertile ground where God plants and nurtures your desires. How often have you prayed, asked, and waited, while deep down you continue to see scarcity, imagine loss, and visualize defeat? Without realizing it, you're feeding the very reality you want to change. Jacob did the opposite. He painted mental images that reflected the promise, and this transformed everything around him. Before we continue, I want you to think about what has been keeping you up at night. Which area of your life feels completely stuck? What is the burden you carry, believing you have to fight this battle alone? Perhaps you've felt that life has been unfair, that opportunities have passed you by, that the doors have closed. But what if the key wasn't out there, but inside you, waiting for you to learn how to use this power correctly? Today, you will discover how a forgotten biblical principle can not only open new paths, but completely redefine the course of your story. So, before we go any further, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, because what you're about to learn isn't just another inspirational message. It's a spiritual key that can change how you see every obstacle in your way. Furthermore, in the first pinned comment, I've left some content that can guide you step by step in applying this law in a tangible way. When you access it after this video, you'll understand why so many people who applied these principles began to experience transformations that once seemed impossible. Now, pause for a moment and reflect. Why would God choose to reveal this secret through a man who was imperfect, who made mistakes, who deceived, and yet was called to prosper? Could there be a message in that for you as well? Could it be that your current condition, your past failures, your limitations, are precisely the starting point for this promise to be fulfilled? What enabled Jacob to make the shift wasn't a stroke of luck or a magical intervention, but an internal decision to change. What he carried inside before it manifested on the outside. As you continue with this video, every detail of this story will make more sense, and in the end, the final revelation I will share will be the most powerful of all, the one that shows not only what Jacob did, but how you can use the same principle starting today, regardless of where you are, how much you've lost, or how much time you think has been wasted. Prepare yourself, because what is about to be revealed isn't theory. It's a key that can unlock doors you didn't even know were waiting for you. Jacob was not the favored son for the inheritance, nor was he chosen on human merit. He wasn't the strongest or the most righteous. He bore the marks of hasty decisions, deception, and flight. He fled his parents' home without wealth, without friends, with only the clothes he was wearing and a blessing that seemed far from becoming a reality. His journey was a paradox. How could someone so limited become so blessed? But it is precisely here that the story begins to unveil one of the greatest spiritual secrets passed down through generations. It wasn't the land that made Jacob prosper, nor was it an inheritance he received or a stroke of luck. It was something that was born inside him before it was born outside. The Bible tells us that at a time of great uncertainty, Jacob had a dream. A ladder connecting earth to heaven, with angels ascending and descending, and the voice of God reaffirming his promise. But notice a powerful detail. The dream was not just a warning, it was an invitation to see beyond what his physical eyes could show him. From that moment on, Jacob began to understand that the visible reality is first shaped by the invisible one. Have you ever thought about that? How often do you look at your life and see only scarcity, limitations, and barriers? But what if God is showing you signs that while you are looking at your external circumstances, He is building something within you? Years passed, and Jacob went to work for Laban, his father-in-law, where things seemed to get even more difficult. He was deceived, exploited, and his wages were changed. But he didn't give up. While everyone else saw a man being swindled, Jacob saw a promise that needed to take form. It was there, amidst injustice, that he applied a principle few understand. He used visualization. When he negotiated with Laban, he agreed to take the speckled and spotted animals as his wages. To the natural eye, this was a great disadvantage, but in his mind, he already saw the flock growing, multiplying, and strengthening. He would place striped rods in front of the animals during mating season, not because the rods had any power themselves, but because his mind needed an image, a symbol that reflected what he saw within. This may seem simple, but it carries a profound spiritual code. What you constantly feed your mind becomes the template for what you will experience. Jacob didn't just complain about Laban's injustices. He built a clear vision of prosperity even in an oppressive environment. And here lies a lesson that directly touches your reality. Perhaps today you find yourself in a place that seems unfair, surrounded by people who don't value you, with bills piling up and doors closing. But the question is, what are you seeing on the inside? Because the image you carry within will become the seed that the outside world will eventually reflect. Jacob's visualization wasn't mere fantasy. It was an act of active faith. He didn't wait for his circumstances to change his vision. He changed his vision so that his circumstances would be transformed. This is precisely what the law of attraction, when viewed through a biblical lens, teaches us. You attract not just what you desire, but what you deeply believe and consistently visualize. How many people today desire prosperity but daily feed a vision of scarcity? How many claim to have faith but internally carry fear, lack, and doubt? Jacob did the opposite. He transformed the promise into a mental image until that image became his reality. Now bring this into your own life. Have you found yourself repeating the same patterns of lack as if a hereditary poverty was haunting you? Perhaps you grew up hearing that nothing comes easy, that money is the root of all evil, or that opportunities are for a select few. But what if that old programming is exactly what's keeping you trapped? Jacob broke free from this by creating a new reference point within himself. It didn't matter what Laban said. It didn't matter what others expected. He decided he would see abundance where there was only limitation. This internal decision, combined with the daily practice of visualization, began to shift everything in his favor. Notice how this process didn't begin with an external change. It was the flock that adjusted to Jacob's vision, not Jacob's vision that adjusted to the flock. This means that what you see today may not correspond to what God has planned for you. And that's okay, because it is not the present that determines the future. It is what you cultivate in the unseen realm that shapes the visible. This is a code many people ignore because they are too busy reacting to what they see instead of creating what they wish to see. What about you? What image have you been nurturing in recent months? Is it the image of the fear of loss, the fear of failure, or is it a clear, vivid image of a prosperous life aligned with the promise God has already declared for you? Sometimes the difference lies in the simple act of stopping, breathing, and beginning to project within your mind the scene of what you want to experience. Not just to wish for it, but to see it. Not just to pray, but to imagine with faith. The human mind is like a spiritual womb. It gestates what it receives with emotion and consistency. For years, Jacob repeated this process until his entire flock began to reflect what he visualized. The weak became strong, the few became many, and when it was time to leave, he departed not as he had arrived, but prosperous, abundant, and transformed. This isn't just a beautiful ancient story, it is a map. And if you choose to follow this map, it can rewrite your story too. Think about what it would be like if, starting today, you began to replace images of failure with images of victory. If every bill to be paid was, in your mind, a representation of an opportunity already provided for. If every closed door was seen as preparation for something greater. This isn't illusion, it is spiritual preparation. It's like sowing a seed before you see the harvest. God works through principles, and visualization is one of them because it prepares your mind and heart to receive without resistance. And here is a secret few dare to mention. True visualization isn't just about imagining a pretty scene. It's about feeling that it is already yours. Jacob didn't look at the striped rods thinking, maybe one day. He looked as if he was already seeing the multiplied flock. This is the turning point, the inner certainty that precedes the outer manifestation. Science today calls this neuroplasticity, the law of attraction, or mental programming. The Bible calls it faith. Faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Now imagine yourself applying this. Imagine closing your eyes tonight and seeing the life you so desire, the peaceful home, the paid-off debts, the restored health, the healed relationships. Not to escape reality, but to create a new internal benchmark. Because when the mind accepts something as real, it begins to align decisions, opportunities, and even people to make it happen. And remember, in the first pinned comment, there is content prepared to guide you through this process more deeply, so you can not only understand it, but live it. Don't put it off, because every day you spend feeding the wrong images is another day reinforcing the life you want to leave behind. Jacob proves that it doesn't matter where you came from, but where your mind decides to go. You could be in the wrong job today, in a difficult relationship, in a financial desert, but if your vision changes, everything begins to reorganize. And the final revelation this story gives us is that visualization, when aligned with God's promise, is not just a technique, it is an act of partnership with the Creator. You project, He manifests. You see, He prepares. You declare, He establishes. In the next few minutes, we will dive even deeper into this revelation and understand why this key worked so powerfully in Jacob's life and how it can, from this moment on, work in yours. Because the final revelation, the one I will share before we conclude, is what ties all of this together in a single movement. Transformation doesn't begin when you receive, but when you become. And that changes everything. Jacob began his journey as a fugitive, carrying only a promise and a heart full of uncertainty. But he ended as a prosperous, transformed man, remembered for generations. What brought about this change was not an unexpected miracle falling from the sky, but an alliance between the vision he chose to cultivate and the promise God had already released. This reveals something profound. It is not our condition that determines our destiny, but the inner image we sustain, even when everything around us seems to scream the opposite. How many times have you felt trapped in a cycle of lack, believing there was no way out? How many nights have you gone to bed thinking that nothing would ever change, that this was your limit? Jacob likely thought the same as he walked through the desert, alone, not knowing what lay ahead. But within him was a flame, the ability to see beyond scarcity, to visualize abundance before it appeared. He decided he would not be defined by his past, but by what he saw in his future. Now, the question that echoes for you is, what will you decide to see from this day forward? Because if you continue to project the same images you have always nurtured, fear, defeat, lack, you will only reinforce the very ground you wish to leave behind. But if you, like Jacob, begin to align yourself with a different, consistent, and vivid vision, your reality will also begin to shift. This isn't magic, it's a spiritual principle. The Bible is clear. As he thinks in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23:7. Imagination is the mold, faith is the cement, and the actions aligned with that faith are the seeds that transform the soil. Many people wait for an external change before they will believe. Jacob did the opposite. He believed before he saw. He visualized before he possessed. And that is what changes the game. You don't have to wait until you have it to start feeling it. You need to feel it to start having it. Visualization is a silent prayer that shapes the unseen. And when done with faith, it becomes irresistible to heaven. God moves when he finds a heart that is already living on the inside what he has promised on the outside. Think about it. Life doesn't change overnight by chance. It changes when you change the way you think, feel, and see. When the image you carry within becomes greater than what your natural eyes perceive, you begin to move doors, opportunities, and even people. It was so with Jacob. It was so with countless other men and women of faith who turned deserts into gardens, scarcity into abundance, and tears into celebration. Perhaps today you look at your reality and see only bills, debts, closed doors, and difficult relationships. Perhaps you feel that life has passed you by, that others have prospered while you were left waiting, but that does not have to be your final story. Because just like Jacob, you too can become prosperous from the moment you decide to change your vision. It doesn't matter your age, your history, or how many mistakes you've made. Visualization aligned with faith is a silent restart that doesn't depend on anyone's permission but your own. And it is here that the final revelation becomes so powerful. Jacob didn't just visualize to become wealthy, he visualized to inherit a promise that carried purpose. Prosperity without purpose is vanity, but prosperity aligned with God's plan is expansion. He prospered not just for himself, but so that the lineage of a nation could be established. And have you ever asked yourself what the purpose is behind what you desire? Because when your vision carries a why that is greater than just meeting momentary needs, the spiritual universe conspires in your favor. Before we conclude, reflect on this. Your current life may just be the starting point, not the final destination. It all begins when you close your eyes and decide to see differently. It's not about ignoring reality. It's about creating a new reference point that moves you to where God wants to take you. Visualization doesn't replace action. It directs action. It is the map, not the journey. But without the map, you walk in circles. With it, you move forward. And if you felt that this message touched an area of your life, that it awakened a flame within you that may have been extinguished, don't let this seed die here. Apply it. Experiment. Choose today what you will project in your mind before you sleep, when you wake up in moments of difficulty. Turn every prayer into a living image. And when doubt tries to creep back in, remember Jacob looking at the striped rods with nothing in his hands and deciding, I see the promise. In the first pinned comment, there is special content prepared to help you take this next step. It's not theory, it's practice. Because while many wait for change to fall from the sky, those who understand these principles build a new heaven within themselves so that the earth will respond. If this message resonated with you, please leave your like and subscribe to the channel right now. That way, you won't miss the next revelations we'll share here, because each one is a key to unlock a new area of your life. And remember, just as it happened with Jacob, your story can also change radically, as long as you begin to see that which does not yet exist as if it were already here.